Correct.
I think most people here would agree with
Just real quick too on the information requests, and I haven't looked at what was specifically requested by SHAC and how that helps, but I do know the more specific and detailed of what information is being looked for or what you need does help tremendously. So if some generic things come through, or I just want to know this, sometimes it's a lot more cumbersome to get down to. So it does take more detail and information, and that's helpful. As far as this, and I kind of go with Mr. Frazier a little bit on this, is things happen, things are said at board meetings and all of that. And to me, if there's an issue or a problem that anybody has on this committee with something that's said at a board meeting to address that, there's an appropriate process in place to address that outside of this committee. And those people need to address that with the correct people. We have a superintendent, we have deputy superintendents, assistant superintendents that can talk with you if there's an issue, but we need to focus on our tasks at hand. And this is, I missed the last meeting because of an issue, but I agree, this is two for two for me, that I'm kind of in agreement. I don't care what happens at the board meeting. We need to do what we need to do.
No, gentlemen, I agree, but at the same time, I think full transparency is fantastic. You know, so I would motion that anything that's brought up about SHAC is brought up at this meeting, every single meeting. You know, if it affects this committee when other people are saying certain things and trying to constrain different stuff. I expect full transparency from the district. I expect full transparency from any governing body that we're dealing with. And nobody's forcing anybody to stay here.
But I don't think any of the information that's being provided or any of our discussions is being kept from anybody. But because some people are disagreeing with each other at a board meeting, that has no business in this committee, because it has nothing to do with any of our recommendations that we're making or any of the job responsibilities that we do. We have a couple of people that are battling with each other for whatever reason.
I don't understand the fundamentals of what's going on, but like on the bylaws, that is something that does concern us. That is something that we spent a lot of time on. I was in the subcommittee, so it's devaluing my time that I've already put in, you know? So again, I would end it, I wouldn't keep talking about it. I'd just say I'd motion full transparency that you bring up these topics every single time they come up, please.
And I don't disagree with if there's a bylaw, if there's a problem with a recommendation that's been made, that to be discussed, but to get into who said this, who said that, back and forth, tit for tat, we need to drop. I don't disagree with going with the information when it's relevant to something we've requested as a group and a committee, or a recommendation we've made, or anything like that. But we're getting into more of other things and personal things instead of what our decisions and what our discussions and what our recommendations are.
So let me ask you then, Dr. Murrell, when information about the SHAC is shared publicly in a board meeting that is false in a way that smears the SHAC as if we've been doing work and reduces our credibility with the community and with the board, do you not think that information needs to be addressed?
Depends on what's said and the process. It's just like the bylaws. I haven't looked at the bylaws in detail. I have them. You sent them to me when I made that request a while ago, and I appreciate that. But it's going through that and working through it, and that is a relevant thing with the bylaws. But some of the things that are being discussed and some of the things that are being brought up, I sat here and went through a conversation about Dr. Upshaw in this meeting, that people had an issue or a problem with how she handled things. She works for somebody, and there's a process to deal with that if she's saying stuff that's false or inappropriate or anything like that. Just like there's a process for principals and there's a process for teachers and all of that to deal with those issues. Deal with it through that manner. We shouldn't be spending time when people have a problem with what people are saying out there right now. We need to do our job, and that's to look at the data, look at the information that we have, make recommendations, and go forward.
But
I think that speaks to the heart of what we're talking about is the data. And so if there's an expectation that there was the expectation that we will be limited in what data is going to be provided to SHAC. So how far there can we meet our goals and expectations if we are limited in the data that we're going to be given? Those to me are completely directly related.
But
it's
has there been a
underway, right?
limitation at this point?
There has not been a limitation at this
So
point, but it was
what-
very
so it's a
clearly laid the
non-issue.
groundwork.
So it's a
I
non-issue
disagree.
right now.
That's okay. I mean, I disagree.
Can I just put in